Hey everybody, welcome to 3D6 Charge, a podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k, the state of the game and community news. I am your host, Chris Vo, and joining me tonight is Benjamin Rubenstein.
Hey everyone.
And tonight's episode is episode 40, All Roads Lead to Commorragh. We're streaming live every Wednesday night on Twitch at 3D6 Charge, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So, as the title of the episode indicates, the Dark Eldar or Drukhari are running, roughshod over basically everybody, and we've got the GT results to back that up. So
before we jump into our main topic, though, Chris, you were telling me right before we started the podcast that you actually picked up real models and played an actual game.
I did. I picked up real models. I rolled some actual real dice in real life with a person. I was playing with our friend Omar. He came down for the weekend since, I'm vaccinated. My wife is now fully vaccinated. He's vaccinated, nice. All of that good stuff. We played Death Guard on Death Guard. I fucked up horribly because I'm so out of practice. And
what was our horrible mistake?
Our horrible mistake was still believing in the possessed dream.
I've been fairly impressed with Death Guard Possessed, but they're not like incredible top tier.
They're not incredible top tier, and also like I'm missing a decent chunk of what makes Death Guard viable as an army. And I was running the Terminus S Assault Force too, and I don't have that many Plague Marines built and ready to go. I didn't have as many Terminators as I want. I didn't have the support characters that I should have had.
Gotcha. So it's just a limitation of physical models not having enough.
Yeah, basically. But I'm starting to rectify that now. I actually started building and painting again.
Nice.
And I'm also not going to be handicapping myself with the Terminus S Assault Force.
So I actually think the Terminus S Assault Force is really, really good and might actually be the way to play Death Guard, especially with what Dark Eldar are doing.
It is really good, but for me to execute it well, I need way more Poxwalkers and way more Plague Marines, neither of which I have.
I think you actually can do some pretty gross things with the Terminator focus list. A lot of their stratagems and stuff care about Poxwalkers, but that psychic table is disgusting. You want to bring 3 full casting characters, like 3 double casters or 2 double casters and a single caster.
That can I can't remember the name of the discipline, the Fester discipline. That discipline is fucking disgusting. So I had a Malignant Plague Caster and I put on Lung Rot, and then the can't remember what the other debuffing on one is. But basically I was going up against his Mortarion, and I had given the Plague Caster the relic for plus 6 inches to his range or psychic spells, so he's going
that's unique to Terminus S as well, right?
Yeah, which is a Terminus S relic as well. So I'm basically reaching out with this guy 24 inches and saying, "Hey, Mortarion, you can't charge unless you're within 6 inches of me." I can't remember what the other effect is, but that was basically the big one. And when you're at that full max range, Mortarion's got like a 12-inch move. You basically shut down his charging. Which was pretty big considering I had no real answer for Mortarion aside from the Possessed with a Demon Prince to support them. But the Demon Prince got sniped, so yeah. It was cool having being able to put Plague Marines in, Deep Strike, granted at an increased CP cost, but yeah.
Yeah, chat's saying they don't like Terminus S first Dark Eldar. The reason I like Terminus S first Dark Eldar is you get to create that Demon Prince who's got the psychic power that just pops toughness 3 characters. and one of the huge strengths of Dark Eldar is those succubi. And then the other thing is that vehicles and things are kind of a liability. Like we're seeing the Dark Eldar lists bring kind of just spamming Dark Lances with +1 wound and +1 damage, which is just making enemy vehicles just kind of irrelevant. So losing out your vehicles and losing out Mortarians, like not a big deal because you're probably going to just watch them all get popped anyway. But it's not like you're not losing at nothing. There are definitely things that other parts of the book are bringing that Terminus S can't. All right. And then, so do you think that Death Guard is like the list that you want to bring once tournaments start up again?
Definitely. Now that I started, building it out a little bit, actually, I'm actually going to be practicing my prospective Death Guard list on Almost Pro Gaming's tabletop
Sweet
tabletop sim league. Brady's in chat right now. He's resigned to being chat again, but Brady, if you want to hop on this Discord, like I can throw you an invite right now. We can talk Dark Eldar.
Yeah, I gotta get into a TTS league at some point, man. But so for me, if I'm thinking about bringing for events right now is I'm kind of wavering between like Chaos Demons and Thousand Sons and Sisters. I think for now I'm going to stick with Chaos just because I've always really loved the Chaos playing. I've been painting Chaos for most of COVID, so it's time to actually like put them on the table. Although amusingly, I'm putting a bunch of things on the table who I haven't painted because I've been painting Rubric Marines, which are not in a great place right now. So I'm last minute putting some Beasts of Nurgle together to have a more durable frontline for my sorcerers. Do you want to talk about these Dark Eldar lists though? Oh, and it looks like we're having someone join us.
Yeah, I decided to have Brady join us here. How do I unmute?
Sure.
No. Brady, can you talk?
Hello.
There we go.
Sorry, I was just like turning you guys down because you're so loud on Discord.
Oh, well. So if you're on the Warhammer competitive like YouTube scene, you might seen some of Brady's videos. He's at the Almost Pro Gaming YouTube channel. He has a lot of good resources. He helped me a lot when I was getting a little bit more into competitive Warhammer. So if that's your jam, check out his videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what were we talking about? Dark Eldar?
We were about to start talking about Dark Eldar's basically how they've been running rampant over the tournament scene for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So
I guess
this is actually a perfect topic for me to hop in on. I'm actually currently in the works of making a video talking about Dark Eldar in their current state, because I remember I saw a Reddit post, I think it was like yesterday or the day before. They were just complaining about Drukhari, saying they have like a 70% win rate and everything and yada 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 yada. And also I'm known for having controversial takes on Dark Eldar in the past, so I figured let's do round 2. And so the question is Dark Eldar broken? And I can answer that question for you with 100% like certainty. Yeah, they're fucking broken. But I think the reason they're broken is there's a couple of things people need to take into consideration. First off, every codex is kind of released with some broken stuff in it. And then Games Workshop comes out and usually does an errata and changes a couple things because either it wasn't intended or they just didn't see it in testing. Or my theory is testing happens while the book is already being printed. So they can't really go back and change the book once testers come in and be like, hey, we found all this shit. So they just do an errata in hindsight and be like, here's the fixes, have your fun. We don't have that errata yet. Dark Eldar hasn't had an errata. And I can almost guarantee like 3 things off the top of my head that are going to get changed, probably alongside many more things.
I'm glad that you've come down on they are broken, because it's really hard to look at that 70% win rate, which is already way beyond the pale. And 70% is actually when you include Dark Eldar versus Dark Eldar matchups in the data. If you remove that, because obviously Dark Eldar versus Dark Eldar is a 50%.
Yeah, there's 100%. Well, Technically, how does that work? Because if there's ever a draw, then technically there's not a 100% win rate, right? Or is that still considered?
So if Dark Eldar versus Dark Eldar is a 50% win rate because one list wins, one list loses.
Yeah,
So that always drags the percentage closer to 50%. If you remove those, it's actually closer to 80%. It's like 79%, which is getting real close to those like first week Iron Hands numbers, which we all know is completely egregious.
But here's the thing: is I think those numbers will come down. I don't know how much, but I do think they will come down once an errata comes out and like gets rid of or significantly tones down that stupid succubus that just murders whatever she wants.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, what that succubus is doing is she has a warlord trait that whenever an attack fails to hit, fails to wound, or is saved against, she gets to make another attack. But her weapon says she gets to make 2 attacks every time she attacks. So she makes like 14 attacks, and then every attack that doesn't hit, wound, or get saved against makes 2 more attacks. So she ends up wanting to fail her first round of attacks because her second round of attacks ends up being twice as big. So she usually makes an average of like 20-ish attacks per round. It's just completely beyond the pale. And they usually give her the relic drug for +1 damage.
Yep, like I think that is definitely going to get changed. Racks with liquefier guns is something that I honestly think they just overlooked.
Yeah.
Like even me when I did my Codex review, I didn't notice that until people pointed it out, and I was like, "Oh shit, that is a good combo." I didn't think about that. So that's probably getting changed. Although they're not seeing much tournament play, I'm pretty sure the Reaver jet bikes will get their actual points cost because anyone who follows like Warhammer and how stuff normally works and how Games Workshop makes mistakes in books, that's obviously just a copy and paste from the misprint they did in the points update like a few months ago.
Right.
Which they did come out eventually and said they're 20 points per model.
Yeah, and Reaver jet bikes, almost every event I've seen is saying you have to run your Reaver jet bikes at 20 points. So that's not really pushing the win rate too much. I've only seen like one event that's like you can run them at 10.
I haven't seen any in like top lists either. People tend to go for the Hellions over the jet bikes. But yeah, I think there's that. I also think that Drukhari is just like a classic case of power creep. Like every codex they seem to come out with usually is stronger than the other ones. And right now, Drukhari is just so far ahead of the curve that. But the thing is I feel like what's the next codex? Isn't it supposed to be like AdMech or something?
It is AdMech.
Next codex is Adeptus Mechanicus.
Yep. So I feel like AdMech is going to come in and they're going to be like the next Drukhari because I think they have the potential to be like that devastating of a faction as well, just because of their firepower.
Right, and they were already like a high firepower army before, and then from what we've seen of like how they're changing around like the Cognis weapons to basically be just better weapons. Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
The 6-shot Cognis autocannons on the Iron Striders are going to be ridiculously dangerous.
Yeah. You also have stuff like their new Dark Lance is 3 plus D3, which not a lot of stuff in the game has, but I think we're going to get, like with the Melta changes and with this change, I feel like a lot of weapons like Bright Lances will get changed to that. Some stuff in AdMech will probably get changed to that. Like,
yeah, we've already seen Cognis Las Cannons go to D3 plus 3.
Yeah, that's just a trend that I see going. So the game, like the new codexes, they're getting, at least for Drukhari's sake, for some of them, they get more durability alongside a little bit more damage. Some of them just get new tricks. Drukhari pretty much just got all damage across the board. That's where all their buffs is just give them more fucking damage and let them hit like way above their weight class. Like you can have a unit of 5 incubi that are like 80 points. Go in and if they're lucky enough, murder like a unit that's like 150, 200 points by themselves. Like it's kind of, but at the same time, if those guys are caught out in the open, they're going to die to some intercessors shooting bolt rifles at them. So like that's the balance of it.
This goes back to your Raiders being 85 points, right? It's 5 points more than the Rhino, but it flies, has an invulnerable save, moves. It flies, has an invulnerable save, has a better las cannon on it, holds better things in it. Is significantly faster. It's just a lot going on with that model for like 5 more points than a Rhino, which are like not good. Their transports are really incredible. Other than Succubi though, I don't know if there's anything I can point at the Codex and say that this is like beyond the pale. A lot of it just feels like they're too efficient for their points.
I mean, isn't that really like what everything that's overpowered is when it's not like egregiously like Succubus is getting like 90 million hits? It's something like the Castellan just being like, yeah, it's 750 points or whatever, but you're always getting basically max value out of it. You know?
I don't know if I agree with that. Like when Iron Hands came out, it wasn't like, I don't know if there was like a point cost you could have put on an Iron Hands dreadnought and been like, this is okay. Like you could just run like 10 untargetable character dreadnoughts and have your army be immune to fire. Like there's no like points cost thing you can do to that other than just be like every dreadnought's 500 points. I don't know. Or whereas
that was original Iron Hands though, which got FAQ'd like after what was it, like a month? It didn't take all that long.
But that went away in a week. That one was the first FAQ. They got rid of that. But so what I'm saying here though is nothing here feels like it's insane. There's no rule that's like this rule can't exist other than clarifying some stuff with like what's an attack for that Succubi Warlord trait combo. But it just feels like they're too efficient. It just feels like the if you've ever like gone to like try to build a Dark Eldar list, you like be like, all right, these are the sweet things I want to do, and then you've done your sweet things, and then you look down, you're like, oh, I have like 500 more points to spend on just things to do my secondaries perfectly because they have units that are perfect at doing secondaries. They have the Mandrakes, which can push both forward deploy and re-deep strike from the table, which makes them perfect for literally every movement secondary and every action secondary that requires you to get somewhere. Because they can forward deploy for regional fronts, and then they can and they can teleport themselves for deploy a scramble in your opponent's zone the second they leave a spot. Your opponent has to screen out on turn 1 in their own deployment zone if they don't need to scramble. They really kind of just have all the tools, and it doesn't feel like they're doing anything that's like this rule's not okay. It's just all these rules together at the points level that they're at is just like too efficient for anything else to really compete against right now.
I kind of agree and I kind of don't agree because like I don't think maybe Raiders is the only argument that I think is good for maybe hiking their points a little bit because like you said when you compare it to like a Rhino it's just better in almost every way except for like the toughness and the armor save. But like I honestly just think like sure Drukhari is broken for now. Once they come out with the errata, get rid of the super problematic stuff. And once we get some more codexes going in, I feel like Drukhari will fall into their place and they'll still be a good army, but they're not going to be like super top tier anymore. Because I also think a part of this too is like it's new codex syndrome. It happens every time. Something comes out, there's a bunch of new stuff. A lot of people don't know how to deal with it properly yet. You're also still trying to deal with, like, if you look at the rest of the meta is like super beefy elite shit. And then you have Drukhari, which is just a bunch of like min-sized units or 10-man units that are still fairly cheap compared to the other stuff. It's just it's almost like an anti-meta in a way, like in the meta that it's arriving in.
Yeah, the meta is definitely very friendly to Drukhari right now. Lots of people just trying to kill Space Marines and Death Guard, and Drukhari are just the complete opposite wound profile for that on their infantry. That being said, 80% is, or 78-9% is such a ridiculously high win rate that I don't think that just seeing the meta shift a bit to bring more probably autocannons is the weapon you're probably looking to kill Drukhari with. Like I don't know that like more autocannons and a couple nerfs to stratagems and warlord traits are going to be enough to like bring Drukhari down. Like they need to drop about 25% for them to be in what, as far as I can tell, is GW's like this is a reasonable faction range. GW starts looking funny at any faction that gets higher than 60%, and Drukhari have like blown way past that benchmark.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's hard to say for sure. Like maybe they need to do a lot of it. Like I don't know. In all the games that I've been playing, like I probably have about a 70-80% win rate in the games that I've played. The problems I've run into though is like when you go up against somebody that is clearly just tailored their list to beat Drukhari. The funny thing is at that point it then feels like a fair match, which does kind of point to Drukhari being a little OP, that you have to like full on tailor for them in order for the game to actually be a game.
Yeah, that's always concerning when like, oh, what's like your worst matchup? Like I'm 50-50 against people who've built their list to beat.
So here's the thing. So my worst matchup that I've found so far is Custodes Dreadnought spam, because you can't really, or like Dreadnought spam, not Dreadnought. Because you can't really kill those fucking things. Like a Telemon, there's pretty much no way you're killing it unless you get off like a you fight last thing with like your warlord trait and then charge them with like Drazar, Succubus, like throw the kitchen sink at it type thing. But the thing is those lists you don't win by doing damage. Those lists you win by playing the boring way, which is like, oh, you got one guy on a objective. Here's a unit of 5 witches that are just going to stand outside of your heroic intervention range, and I'm going to win that way. And every time they put because you just have so many more models than they do. And because our troops are so good, like Drukhari troops are amazing. When you look at a lot of other armies, they don't spam troops like Drukhari does. And I think that's a big part of their win rate as well, is our troops are actually our damage dealers. They can do stuff other than stand on an objective. But if you need them to stand on an objective, they're great for that because they come with OBSEC. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, chat's also pointing out the something that we haven't seen a ton, but we've seen in a couple places. The Court of the Archon unit is really problematic. There's just, I don't know if you've looked at that at all.
Not at all. I don't like those models, so I don't.
Yeah, so the models are, yeah, I'll definitely give you that. The models are not pretty, but they are wildly undercosted for what they do. They all have like 3 wounds. It's like 100 points for 4 of them around there. They go up to really big squads, and the unit that we're seeing is like 4 Ogles and 4 Sliths, and it's like 40-ish. Chat's saying 36 attacks on the charge, and they're all AP2 or AP1. And it's just like not an expensive unit that has tons and tons of wounds. It has Feel No Pain. It has invulnerable saves for being Drukhari. It's supposed to be like this, like your Archon has some bodyguards, but it turns out your Archon's bodyguards can kind of just like wander across the table and kick Marines to death. And it's not functioning as it was intended. It reminds me almost like the Index, I don't know, if Index Inquisition, where they had like the silly acolytes that were like 3 wounds each, and they were just like, oh, it's like an Inquisition guy that goes with your Inquisitor, and then people were like, oh, you could bring 20 of them. And it's sort of doing the same thing, where it's just this unit that was sort of designed as like a bodyguard. You bring like one of them, and then people realize it's just wildly underpointed, and if you spam them, it's like even sillier. There's just like a couple oversights in the codex that are letting Drukhari just get away with some nonsense.
Yeah, that's kind of Drukhari's whole shtick, though, because like if you look at their defensive profile, are they really all that defensive? Like I'm assuming their toughness 3, probably 5 up in ball.
5 up, yeah. So they have the invulnerable save from Power from Pain. They have 5 up Feel No Pains. They have 3 wounds each.
But I'm assuming only toughness 3, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And are they characters?
No, they're not characters.
So in theory, you just kill them with a couple of bolters. But with Drukhari, in theory, is always different than in practice, because another thing that I think that benefits Drukhari so much, and I've noticed this in a bunch of my games using like tabletop, because I've only been playing on Tabletop Simulator. I'm not vaccinated, and Canada's still kind of on lockdown and shit. But in the games I've been playing on Tabletop Simulator, we're using boards that have like, I wouldn't say like a fair amount of obscuring terrain. And Drukhari is so damn good at making use of obscuring terrain because of our speed. You just put a transport out like beside a wall. They shoot the transport, kill the stuff. Your stuff is suddenly inside the building, behind the wall, cannot be shot at. Good to go for the next turn.
Yeah.
And then because we get advance and charge on turn 2, we're charging the enemy right then and there. Like it's so good. And I think the terrain plays a part into that as well.
Yeah. So keep in mind though, for this unit, they have 5 up vulnerable saves, 5 up Feel No Pains, and 18 wounds. Like they're real close to like a Poxwalker unit, but for way less points. They're not functioning as intended. Like they're not doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be like this little bodyguard unit, and they end up being this super points efficient tanky unit that can also kind of murder anything it touches. And we haven't even really seen it being played that much because, like you said, like the models the models are not pretty, and in previous editions the models were also not good, so no one has like a bunch of them ready to go.
I have one Lamian for my old list back when you could abuse the fact of she didn't take a slot, but then there was like a gray area that still opened up a dedicated transport slot.
Yeah, so people have like 1 or 2 because they were single model non-character units, so you could do actions and stuff with them. But like no one had like 20, which is about how many you want now.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the points should go up on them, but to be like I said, I haven't really seen them or even looked at them. I don't even know how many points they are, to be honest with you. So
it's like 18, 16 points a model. It's very low. But do we want to look at a couple of lists that won events this weekend?
Yeah, let's do that. So let me bring up some lists here. All right. First off, the War on the Berg GT. So this caught my eye when I saw the results on Facebook. First place was Imperial Knights. I want to see what this list was first. I need to log in with BCP. God damn it.
Yeah, so that Imperial Knights list, I don't know the exact list off the top of my head, but I do know it's 3 big knights and I think 4 little knights. And as we saw in our events, Drukhari can struggle a little bit against toughness 8 models.
Definitely. I used to
Which
hate
is-
playing against knights in 8th edition, and I still kind of hate playing against knights.
It's funny because like they annihilate toughness 7 models. Like Dark Lances with +1 to wound just like go right through. It's like toughness 7 models, like they're nothing. And like the second you hit toughness 8, well, like there's no strength 9 weapons really in the codex. There are, but they're not in like places that usually get
The
brought.
Void Raven Bomber is the main one I can think of.
Yeah, and it's like 2 shots. It's not enough to like you're not wiping out knights with like a Void Raven Bomber or 2. So T8 models are sort of an issue for Dark Eldar to kill. Now, that being said, a million Dark Eldar in transports can very easily look at a Knight list and just go, well, I'm never going to kill Knight, but I'm just going to scroll the points. That being said, this guy just didn't let that happen.
Is like what I was saying earlier, there's certain matchups where your win condition is go kill the enemy while getting points. And then there's other matchups with Drukhari where it's do the damage that you can do, but just beat them on points because you have the models to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I got
You got that list, Chris?
Yep. Just up here.
All right. I believe it's the House Crest list too, which is the reroll hit rolls in melee. Armiger Warglaives, which I believe the guy took, are really, really good at killing toughness 3 models. Because they are strength 6, AP 2, 1 damage, rerolling all their hit rolls. So hitting on 3s, rolling everything, winning on 2s, AP 2 is putting everything in the codex onto its invulnerable save, and just kind of chopping through stuff.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I couldn't bring up that actual night list because I've been unsubbed to BCP for a while. I didn't see a point in keeping my sub active, so I need to fix that. But let's look at this Drukhari list that came in first place at the Renegade Spring Up GT.
So actually, before we look at the whole list, can we just talk about those detachment you've highlighted right now? Because I've seen this actual just exact detachment almost copy pasted among many of the lists that either placed in first or very highly, which is Drazar, 3 racks with 2 liquefier guns in each rack unit, 2 units or 3 units of 3 grotesques, all with liquefier guns, and then some number of raiders.
Yep, that's exactly what this is.
Cool. So what's happening here is this is a Dark Tactomancer's detachment. Dark Tactomancers is you can overcharge your guns when you shoot them. You get +1 to wound and +1 damage. And if you roll 1s to hit, you do mortal wound to yourself, or D3 if you're a vehicle or a monster. But if you have a flamer, you don't roll to hit, so you can never take damage. So it's just free +1 to hit, +1 damage. And then racks take up 1 slot each, and grotesques take up, I believe it's 2 slots each. And there's 3 grotesques and 5 racks. Well, that's 11 slots in a raider. Raiders can take 11 now because they added an extra place for like the leader you would put with your 10-man squads.
So you can change in the codex.
So people are now using this to put 5 racks and 3 grotesques in a raider, which means that raider then has 5d6 shots at, I believe it's 4 -2/2, or liquefier is 5. Liquefiers are 4, right? I believe they're strength 4. But anyways, 4 -2/2 with +1 to wounds, which is just kills anything. Like you're just annihilating Space Marines with that profile. And then what's more, they usually for the Coven, they usually take the not the Coven, for the Cabal, they usually take the Cabal that has access to the redeploy strat, so they can deploy.
That is.
Yeah, they can deploy their raiders very aggressively. And then if they go first, well, the raiders are on top of you and they're shooting at your front line if you deploy too aggressively yourself. And if they go second, they just put everything in deep strike, and you can't you can't punish them for their aggressive deployment because that stratagem lets them like put things into outflank.
It's pretty good.
And which is one of the reasons that another thing to point out with the Drukhari Codex, it's very complicated how you are allowed to build your detachments. So you can take raiders from a Cabal and put them into a Coven detachment. They just don't get the chapter trait or the Cabal trait, but they still have the keywords, so you can still use the stratagem on them to read.
Yep.
And then because you're sticking 5-man squads of racks into the raiders, you're not particularly interested in buffing them, so you don't need to bring a homunculus, so you just take Drazar for the HQ of that detachment because Drazar is incredibly good.
I think it's too that the homunculus, like I've tested him out for a while. I was all on the hype train for Real Space Raid until I realized that the homunculus is kind of just taking too many points, and 2 or 3 patrols is actually the better route now, in my opinion. And like, yeah, the homunculus, like, what can you really do? He's not that great at damage. He doesn't really buff, like, he buffs. If you were gonna play like Talos and stuff like that, then he'd be okay because he can make them toughness 8, I believe it is. But
+1 toughness, yeah.
but like you mentioned, everyone's running stuff in the transports where that aura is never going to be needed anyways. So the only 2 reasons I ever saw to take him is for Vexator Mask, but you don't really need that because you have the Warlord trait on the Archon now that does basically the same thing. And you can upgrade him to a Alchemical Maestro to take that really good relic where you can turn off auras and do mortal wounds or something. But in most of the games I've played, that hasn't like really been needed, and you're spending 100 points on kind of not necessarily a worthless character, but just not that great of a character. So why not just remove him entirely, and now you can fit Drazar into your list? Like, it's an amazing replacement. Drazar does so much more than that homunculus ever will.
Yeah, I think homunculi are genuinely amazing if you're bringing a bunch of like homunculus covens. Like the +1 toughness aura is a huge game changer on the math of how your models die. But yeah, if you're bringing 15 dudes to stick in raiders with guns, like, yeah, don't spend your points on that. You're not going to use it.
Yeah, and I feel like other than like basically unless it holds a liquefier gun, I kind of feel like covens are dead. I don't think they're that good at anymore. Like
That's
the army.
fair.
Yeah, the army is mainly like built around like the rest of the army is cabals and witches, and I think the witch cults are like the clear winners so far from this new book.
The yeah, so covens can be built to be extraordinarily tanky in ways that the other detachments can't as much. But like we were talking before, everything's so points efficient. You're not really concerned about like, oh man, what if I get shot off the table? Like, you have so many bodies inside of so many vehicles. Like, it's all Russian nesting dolls. It's really hard to actually wipe you off of a particular point of the table. So you're not really reliant on having like a big tough unit with good toughness and invulnerable saves. You just like do it with numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's our next attachment in this list?
Let's see. Our next detachment is another patrol. It is Witches, Cult of Strife. You've got the competitive Edge Succubus with Adrenalite combat drugs. The Triptych Whip. Let's see.
She's also upgraded to have Show Stealer, so she can consolidate out of combat.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's always fun.
We've got Hecatrix Blood Brides for. Is it just 1 unit? Yeah, it's just 1 unit. It looks like.
Yep.
I think you can only take 1 unit.
Yeah, you can take 1 upgraded troop unit per upgraded HQ. You can only bring one upgraded HQ per list unless you're a real space raid. And Hecatrix Blood Brides, in my opinion, are the least interesting upgrade on the troops, but Succubi are the most interesting upgrade on the HQ. And I still think you are at the point where Blood Brides are probably worth the 2 points per model to upgrade them. So you may as well if you're going to bring a Succubus.
So the thing is with that I've noticed with witches is if you bring normal witches, they really only reach their max potential on turn 3. Trying to survive to get yourself into combat till turn 3, like, is not that great. I think the strength of the army is being able to get into combat on turn 2. So you want as many units that like get their full potential on turn 2. And Blood Brides, they get their full potential on turn 2.
Yep, for sure.
They don't need to wait till turn 3.
For sure. Is this a Cult of Strife detachment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just, the list just popped off the stream for whatever reason.
Yeah, I messed up.
But yeah, like Incubi as well, they hit on 2s in close combat, which makes them for turn 2 charges. So yeah, I really feel like the power of the army is just being able to get in there on turn 2.
Yeah, and let's take a moment to talk about Cult of Strife too, because this is, I think, one of the big things of power that for not bringing a real space raid is you get to bring the Codex supplement for Cult of Strife. Which
Cult
is
of Strife, is that
insane.
Yeah, the day 1 DLC.
Okay.
Yeah, the day one DLC. And some of the things that Cult of Strife are doing are kind of beyond the pale. First of all, their baseline ability is if they start combat and engagement range, they get to fight first, which is already an excellent trait. And then they get +1 to charge things that are not already engagement range with friendly models, also an excellent trait. And then their baseline strat is 2 CP fight again, also excellent.
It only works on the witches though.
Yes, a witch unit gets to fight again. And then beyond that, they can charge over models. They can pick a unit to reroll all hits and wounds for 2 command points. And I believe that one's just which keyword, which means it works on pretty much everything in the detachment. They have access to some really silly relics and warlord traits. Although in this list, the player didn't take them. The triptych whip is excellent. Oh, actually, competitive edge is one of those warlord traits. Just kidding. Which is the whenever you fail to get to my attack to damage, you can just start the attack over. Yeah, this is really a very powerful attachment, and it's kind of disappointing from an internal balance standpoint because it makes it really hard to imagine ever taking a witch cult that's not Cult of Strife unless you're putting it in a real space raid.
I bring Cursed Blade still. I haven't jumped on the Strife train yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I like I don't know. I'm still kind of testing stuff out, but I really like Strength 5 witches.
Okay, they're +1 strength in the charge, is it? Or?
Well, because the Cult of Cursed Blade gives you +1 strength, so you're strength 4, and then you just give them the drug for an extra strength.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
That's strength 5. So, because I've noticed I play a lot of against a lot of armies that are toughness 5 and stuff, and I wanted my witches to actually be able to do something. And I noticed maybe it was just bad rolls over multiple games, but whenever I brought them in at strength 3 and then gave them extra attacks and stuff with Strife, it just didn't work as well as having the strength 5 ones.
Yeah, I think Strife, you have to be planning on spending most of your command points on the witches because the real power you're getting from the Strife is the full rerolls to hit and wound is really silly. But if you don't plan on spending 5-6 command points on your witches because you've decided you want to use them elsewhere, then it makes sense to bring different attachments. But that's the thing with the Dark Technomancer attachment, right? That's one of the things that makes it so silly is it's super, super efficient, and there's literally not a single stratagem in the book that you need to use to make it function. It just functions by itself. You don't need any warlord traits. You don't need any relics. Everything's a flamer. You don't need rerolls to hit. Everything gets bonuses to wound baseline. You just put it on the table and it's good to go, and you can spend all your command points elsewhere.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And what's our last attachment here?
Our last attachment is another patrol, but this is a Cabal of the Poison Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We've got an Archon with the Jin Blade. He is a Splintered Genius.
I guess you can are you able to upgrade multiple?
I believe
guys?
So, but
okay, I was wrong then. Never mind. Ignore me because I'm not a Dark Eldar player. I'm going by what I sort of heard. So yeah, Splinter Genius is lets him fight again if I remember correctly.
Yeah, once per game you can fight for a second time.
Yeah, which is fine, but more importantly, it lets you upgrade Cobbleites into Cobblite Trueborn, who are ridiculous.
Yeah, originally with Trueborn, I didn't like them all that much, but it's because I read them wrong and I didn't realize you could bring 2 blasters and a Dark Lance. And then once I found out that, I was like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty good.
Yep, and they always
I've been using them ever since.
Yeah, so you can move and fire that Dark Lance still hitting on 2s, or you can run them, right? Because the blasters are assault, so you can run them and still hit on 2s with the blasters. You use that option less often, but it comes up.
Yep, I like to put them also in a Raider and actually spend the 10 points on the Splinter Rex too, so the other guys actually get some damage done as well.
Yeah, may as well, right? If everyone hits on 2s.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the difference between Trueborn and regular Cabalites?
They hit on 2s.
And they can't not hit
plus
on
1
2s.
leadership.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, so they also and they have the Dark Reaper thing, right? Where it's they hit on 2s and they can't not hit on 2s.
Yeah. So you're always hitting on 2s, and then normally they're in this they're Poison Tongue, so their poison weapons will get +1 the wound, but you can run them in Blackheart, which is what I do, and you get the 1 free reroll. So if if you do happen to roll a 1 on one of your blasters, well, it's most likely not going to be a 1 for very long.
Yeah, Blackheart's the other Cabal that we're seeing do very well because all of your years have 1 excellent shot, may as well reroll it. The rest of this attachment is 2 more just 5-man Coblate Warriors. One of them has a Phantasm Grenade Launcher, and then I believe it's 2 units of Incubi. Can you scroll down a little bit, Chris?
Yep.
Yeah, 2 units of Incubi, a single Ravager with 3 Dark Lances, and then 1, 2, 3 Raiders with 2 of them have Dark Lances and Grizzly Trophies and Phantasm Grenade Launchers. The last one has a Dark Lance, Phantasm Grenade Launcher, and Splinter Axe, and then 2 Venoms with double Splinter Cannons. Splinter Cannons are a little underwhelming usually, but this Cabal's trait, if I remember correctly, is +1 to your poison weapons are all 1 better, right?
Yep, you wound on 3s.
Yeah, so these Splinter Cannons are always wounding on 3s, which makes them like pretty interesting. They're like functionally strength 6, they're wounding all infantry on 3s, AP 1-2 damage. Like that's the Marine killer. 6 shots.
It's pretty good. Okay, so I'm kind of skewed because what I've played against the most in testing was like salamanders that ignore that -1 AP from the fucking
Fair
thing.
enough.
Custodes, they stand in cover and basically still get their 2-up save, or they have storm shields and whatever. Death Guard, where the 2 damage doesn't fucking matter. And in that case, it's actually nerfed because you used to get 12 shots. Now you only get 6.
Right.
And so, like, they feel good. I just don't feel like this is the right meta for Venoms.
Yeah, the one thing that is nice about Venoms, though, is they do move 16 inches, right?
Yes.
So they make your movement secondaries free. You just get to do them if you put Venoms in your list.
Yep. But, well, yes and no, because if you, unless you have good terrain for it, you can send a Venom out to go get engaged on all fronts, but let's say that Venom has a unit of witches, a unit of incubi, whatever. Venoms are fairly easy to crack. And with the small, that's the other thing that I kind of want to mention too. I feel like a nerf/buff to Drukhari was the smaller board size as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the Venom, say you put it on the other half, well, that's an easy target for your opponent to charge if needed, but they don't usually need to. They can usually kill it with like a couple of small guns, and then whatever pops out of it is just going to die. Like to bolters, a charge, whatever. So using Venoms that way, shoving them up in your opponent's face that quick, unless you have a good place to hide them, it's not always the right call in my opinion.
Yeah, I assume you're probably, if you're ever using them that way, you're probably getting the stuff out of the Venom and then throwing the Venom off to the side to just transfer your
get them out on the, leave them on the objective that the Venom just left or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then a Ravager is kind of neat. I haven't seen a lot of Ravagers in these lists. It's not that they're bad, it's just that other things in the codex tend to be more efficient. But it's an excellent target for the new jump, shoot, jump, which I believe is called Always Moving or Never Still.
Never Stationary.
Never Stationary, thank you. And yeah, if your opponent's running a list that is weak to a bunch of Dark Lances, it seems great to be able to have access to something with 3 Dark Lances that can basically always be hiding.
Yep. When I was running Ravagers, I ran them 2 Disintegrator Cannons, 1 Dark Lance. And I still think that those are okay, but like you were kind of saying, there's just other stuff in the army right now that are just in a way more points efficient. So you take that stuff anyways.
Yeah, if you compare a Ravager to like a tank from pretty much any other codex, it's excellent. It's just somehow worse than a lot of the other things happening in the Dark Eldar codex.
Well, I mean, too, like compare it to, you get a Raider. You still get 1 of your Dark Lances, so you're -2 Dark Lances, but now inside that Raider, you can also throw some Incubi, and it's pretty close to the same points as what the Ravager would be. Or you can throw in a unit of witches, and it's basically the exact same as what the Ravager would be. And although in a way that's less like anti-tank, it's still giving you another OBSEC unit or another 5 bodies to put on an objective. Because like I said, not all matchups for Drukhari, they want to just full-on kill the opponent. Some matchups, you do just want to play I have more models than you, I'm going to win on points.
Yeah, it gives you more tools to kind of play the mission. I like that, by the way, the 1 Dark Lance, 2 Disintegrator Cannons, if you're running Cabal the Black Heart, because you get your 1 reroll in case your Dark Lance misses, and then...
Correct. And then, you shoot that one first, and then if it hits, you can re-roll one of the dizzy shots.
Yeah, seems great. And then here, too, we're bringing Phantasm Grenade Launchers, those are like mortal wounds if you beat your opponent's leadership or something?
Yes, and that's where the Grizzly Trophies come in. You put a Grizzly Trophy or a Raider beside a guy, lower his leadership, you now get to do a fuck ton of mortal wounds to him with all your grenade launchers.
Yeah, and because Grizzly Trophies are a 6-inch aura rate of -2 leadership.
Yep,
and those
so you
also
can hit multiple units, and it helps with the Incubi as well for their fight last ability.
You stole the words out of my mouth. Yeah, the Incubi are always going to fight first next to a Raider. You just can't stop that from happening.
Well, more often than not, yes. I've had plenty of times where I roll like a 1.
Yeah, you can roll a 4 on 2d6. Fair enough. All right. Do you want to look at another list, Chris?
Yes. Let me.
Find a good one, because this is the last one I'll be able to talk about. I actually got to go somewhere. I wasn't expecting to be on a podcast today, but
fair enough.
All right, let's look at another first place Drukhari list. This one is from the Iron Halo War for the Wooden Spoon. So let me put this up. All right, there we go. So what are we looking at here?
All right. Chat is pointing out Grizzly Trophies is a 3-inch aura.
oh, I thought it was 6 as well.
And it has been made as a mistake on streams multiple times. Okay. This is the player who played Dark Eldar in our stream event, so I assume that he probably has the codex open in front of him and is ranting against the world about how everyone gets this wrong. All right, yeah, that is significantly less far, but still an excellent ability because you can.
Yeah.
Really
Well, yeah, the Raiders are still incredibly fast. You can also, if needed, use the Never Stationary to be able to get them into the range that you want them to be.
Or just charge.
Or just charge. Absorb that Overwatch.
Yeah. The transports being able to move so fast is excellent for Dark Eldar because you really do need to absorb Overwatch because if your opponent has any version of Overwatch, your guys just kind of go away.
Yep. So let's see. First attachment on this list is that copy paste Drazar Rax. But
yep.
He actually brought some Incubi and Mandrakes and no Raiders in this particular detachment, but like the meat of that detachment is there.
Yeah, the Rax can still go in Raiders from other detachments, so
they
idea.
Probably took Blackheart Raiders, I would assume.
Let's see if you're right. So the next detachment is a Blackheart patrol.
Yep.
There we go. They're the Raiders.
Yeah, so it makes it less interesting to put the grotesques in there because you're being a little more committal with them.
Yeah. So this Archon has the Helm of Spite. That's the only thing different I see about this one.
He's Ancient Evil as well.
Oh, Ancient Evil.
That's the fight last Warlord trait.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, handful of just bare bones MSU Cabalites here.
So yeah, 2 units of 5 Cabalite Warriors with nothing on them.
The deploy Scrambler Monkeys. That's what their job is.
2 units of Incubi with just 5-man squads. And then we got a Raider with Blade Veins, a Dark Lance, Grizzly Trophies, and Phantasm Grenade Launcher. And then 4 Raiders with just Grizzly Trophies and Dark Lances.
Yep. And then the last patrol, Cult of Strife. You've got your Succubus with, combat drugs, the Adrenalite, Quicksilver Fighter, Trip Tech Whip. And then the
Quicksilver Fighter is +2 attacks, so she is making 11 attacks on the charge.
And then the other Succubus is same combat drug, competitive edge, and is it the Show Stealer? Yeah,
with Dark Lotus Toxin, which is a relic combat drug for +1 strength, +1 damage. And as of now, there's a stratagem that doubles the effectiveness of combat drugs on a character, so you can use it on her to turn that into +2 strength, +2 damage. And she's got Razor Flails, which are 2 attacks each for each normal attack you'd make. This is the Succubi that's making 14 attacks on the charge at 5 -1/3, and then everyone that doesn't go to damage just like restarts as 2 attacks. This is the Succubus that is really problematic. It's killing pretty much anything it touches.
Mm-hmm. Definitely will get changed whenever they decide to do the errata.
Yeah. And even if they just hit that Warlord trait, baseline, like 14 attacks at 5 -1/3 is still absurd for, what is she, 60 points?
Something like that.
Yeah, 60 points. Unless you upgrade her to a Show Stealer, then she's 75.
Yeah, although even there, that gives you a lot too, right? Because that lets her murder something and then just walk away from it, like presumably back behind something that's going to protect her.
Yep. You murder something, then run away behind a wall, or if you run in and somehow don't kill what you were trying to kill, you just run away from it so you don't die.
Yeah. And then we got Blood Brides with looks like Grave Lotus, Agonizers, Plasma Grenades. Okay, so Blood Brides is just nothing, just no special weapons, just 10 Blood Brides. Which is interesting. I haven't really seen a lot of people bring Blood Brides with no special weapons. How do you feel about that?
Probably should have the Razor Flails, but
Gotcha.
I don't know. Like, if you look at their list, where would you take the points from? I guess is probably the problem they had.
That's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of like skill monkey units in here. Like we got 2 more units of witches with just nothing on them. What is Grave Lotus? Is that +1 toughness?
That's +1 strength.
+1 strength. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So they're going for the strength 4 witches, assuming that this is strife again.
Yeah, this is strife. We brought all the nonsense strife stuff in the Succubi. And then we got 2 more units of mandrakes, which I think is the full 3. So we're just really, really interested in doing secondaries in this list. And then a unit of Hellions, which is 15 Hellions, which is also really good. Hellions are they have the strat where if they fly over a unit, they can roll a d6 for every Hellion in the unit that flew over that unit, and every 5 up is a mortal wound. You get +1 on that roll if your target is infantry. This is one of those other things that like probably needs to get reworked. As of now, there's no limitation on characters, so you can just point at any character and just kill it for a command point.
Yes, that is correct.
Which is bad. I do not think that the intention of that stratagem was you can point a command.
It's perfectly balanced. You just got to stay like 24 inches away from the unit.
It's perfectly balanced. You just have to just not engage with the thing at all.
I do not think the intention of that stratagem was 1 CP, kill any character in the game that's smaller than a Demon Prince.
Yeah. Well, you know the cheeky way to do it too, right? You technically don't have to fly like completely over the unit. You just fly your unit up, make its base go 1 millimeter over the front guy, and then land back in front of them.
Yeah, and it's fun, fly away. Yeah, it's really good. And then like and also in combat, they are very dangerous in combat.
They're flying witches.
Because they're just flying witches, and they have access to all the Cult of Strife nonsense. They can reroll all their hits and wounds, and their threat range is so ridiculously far that they will just touch you and kill you. Anything else in this attachment?
No, that's it.
All right. So this list is really focused on secondaries. Like it has like the absurd killer characters in it, but triple unit of mandrakes, multiple 5-man squads of witches and Coblate warriors. We're just here to hold objectives and do all of the secondaries. Raise banners, deploy scramblers, engage in all fronts. I think it would be extraordinarily difficult to stop this list from just scoring points. So something that we're seeing in a lot of these lists is Dark Technomancers and Cult of Strife. The Cabals, I think you got a couple different options for how you want to run your Cabals. But it feels like the Dark Technomancers and the Cult of Strife are like sort of the basis of a lot of our really.
It really comes down to like for the 2 Cabals, it's either Poison Tongue or Blackheart. You take Blackheart if you're doing Raiders. You take Poison Tongue if you're doing Venoms. And that's basically it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that pushes people towards Poison Tongue is if they want to invest a little bit more into the Dark Technomancers detachment, because it lets them really get silly with the way they can deploy their flamers on the beginning of the game.
Yep, that's true too.
So as our I guess new resident Dark Eldar player, how do you feel these lists get turned down, right? Because we are all in agreement that these lists are they're just too pushed, right?
What do you mean?
Like we said at the beginning of the show, we think Dark Eldar is too good, right?
Yes, but I think Dark Eldar is too good for the current state of the game. I don't think they're just too good in general. Like, if you get what I mean?
Gotcha. So
like, there's a few things like the Succubus and Dark Technomancers. There's a couple things that definitely need to be changed.
Okay.
Once those are changed, and once we get more codexes out, I don't think Dark Eldar is as OP as a lot of people are thinking they are, but yet they're way ahead of the curve. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, and I think so. For me, I think something needs to be done about flamers with Dark Technomancers. I don't know if it's just like change it back to the way it used to be, which was the wound rolls would do more to you. Of course, that then opens up like guns that actually have to like roll to hit become scary again. The other thing is we definitely need to do something with the Hellion strat. Even if it can't target characters, like it does so many mortal wounds. Like maybe it's fine, but it definitely, at the very least, the murdering characters with it has to go away, I think.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think right now, though, like what character, other than with Dark Eldar, like the mirror match for obvious reasons. Maybe, I guess, Dark Angels too, Like, what characters do you absolutely would rather use that on the character than the unit that's actually scoring points?
The thing is, they're good at combat, right? So they're going to like fly over, murder the character, and then go into combat. Like Justiciars. Justiciars
Yeah.
are a unit that we're going to see a fair number of in response to Dark Eldar being, very combat oriented, especially in factions that can either increase the aura on the Justiciar or have the Justiciar like heroically intervene 6 inches. Like Space Wolves Justiciars could just like move 6 inches
You
before
talking
they
about
have
the Judicar or whatever? Have I been saying that
Yes.
wrong my entire
Yes, you
life?
have.
Okay.
There's an extra I in there.
Yeah, there's an extra I in there. It's Justiciar.
Okay.
Because I think Blood Angels can also hurt him 6 inches. There's a couple Space Marine factions where like it's a 3-inch aura, but like he can move 6 inches, really a 3-inch aura. Like just murdering him first and then going into the unit that he was going to protect. And plenty of Chaos factions. Like Chaos isn't a bad place right now, but Chaos factions are extraordinarily character centric. A lot of them are very reliant on sorcerers of various types to like function.
Yeah, but they're already in a bad spot. They don't count. I'm talking about the meta armies, like the ones that matter.
Right, but at some point, like Chaos are going to get new books, and I suspect that sorcerers will still be a major part of their strategy. And I don't think like 1 CP kill like your 150 point character.
I think it's 2 command points.
Sure. Still, I just think that is just like a little too efficient on a unit that like if the unit didn't move 24 inches, I think it would be a very different conversation. But they move so ridiculously far and don't really lose very much from moving because they're assault guns and can advance and charge. That they're giving up very little to just like pop a character and then still just like continue to play the game normally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they move 14. So it's really not that big of a movement unless, like, I guess you add in their advance of usually 3 or 4 inches. So they're moving like 17, 18 inches. That's still pretty far, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's...
Well, the thing is they fly. So they're just like, they get to hop over units or stuff from out behind them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It all feels very weird when you have a unit that's like makes screening completely impossible. Like you cannot screen your characters out from these guys unless you're
can in
completely
a way,
hoarded out. Yeah, you have to have your characters pretty far back and have like literal walls of bodies between the character.
But not even like walls. Just like you need your character like 17-ish inches away from them, and then enough bodies in front that make it so that they can't just do the thing where they just touch his base and then move back because they'd have to land on the other unit that's in front of them. You know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
they do have a big footprint. That's fair. It's not completely.
Yeah,
it's not like you can completely not play.
So it does have counterplay. Is it the best counterplay? Arguable.
Yeah,
but
because the thing is, like, yes, you can do that, but if you do that, I think you're just falling apart to everything else the army is doing, right? Like you're just taking really awkward charges from a bunch of witches and stuff.
Yeah, that could be true.
But yeah, I'll be curious to see how GW does this. So I've been pretty impressed with how GW has handled like really nonsense factions coming out. Like when Iron Hands came out and they were on like 85% win rate, I think GW handled that pretty well. People wanted them to just like pull out the rug from under them and just like make every tank 500 points. And like some of the things that people were saying were really silly. And GW was like, no, we're going to nerf 3 stratagems and a character. And they went from like 85 to 70. And GW was like, all right, this is still too high. We're going to nerf, I think it was like a couple more stratagems and like tone down the way doctrines work. And they went down to like, I think it was like something. And they handled it like very reasonably. So I do think Drukhari are too good, but I don't think I would be panicking as a Drukhari player. I think GW has figured out how to move a faction to where it's supposed to be at like a reasonable pace without just like breaking its knees and making it unplayable.
Yeah, I can agree with that for the most part.
I
kind of feel like the Iron Hands thing too is probably why Drukhari's errata is taking so long, because they did the first errata like a week after the Codex, which it was desperately needed.
Yeah.
But then we needed another FAQ after the following LVO because there was still broken shit within that book.
Yeah.
So I think Games Workshop might be taking their time and using tournament results and whatever to get more data to figure out, like, to get this right the first time. We only need 1 errata done, good to go from there. You know what I mean?
And with COVID too, it does 2 things, right? You're getting less data because there's less games played, so it's hard to make exactly the right decision. And then also, because there's less games being played, it's less desperate. It's not like there's a huge tournament scene that's being ruined by this army. There's much fewer events firing, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, but anyways, that's all I can do for today. I got some other stuff I gotta take care of tonight. Thank you for finally inviting me on the show, though. I appreciate
Chris.
it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Chris. Thank you for finally inviting me on the show that you plan to talk about my main army on. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, I did not know
Anyways.
you were a Dark Eldar player. If I had known, if Chris had told me, I certainly would have invited you.
Yeah.
Not that I have any
Yeah.
power here.
At one point in time, I was the third best Drukhari player in Canada.
Nice. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
Maybe you should have led with that, Brady.
Maybe you should have led with that. All right, but yeah, that's it for me. Depending on how long it takes me to do what I got, if you guys are still going, I might be able to hop back in. But
Realistically, we're
gonna be
probably
wrapping up here.
gonna wrap this up in a couple minutes here.
oh well, if it's only gonna be a couple minutes, I can stick around for a few more minutes.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough. I do think that we'll certainly try and have you on again at some point, but perhaps in a more planned manner, Chris.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
not
Chris.
just you dropping by and chatting. We're like, oh, hey, let me just grab this guy out of the Twitch chat.
But yeah, this has been awesome. It's been great talking to you. Chat's been super active. So I think just want to touch on a couple things that chat has mentioned and then close it up. So chat mentions Dark Lotus does not work on relics, which is an interesting wording because Dark Lotus Toxin is a relic. So I don't think there's currently a way for a succubus to have two relic weapons, right?
No, there isn't.
Yeah, okay. So that's an interesting wording. I guess they're just, backproofing in case they decide to print something silly later on.
Which would be very unlike GW.
Yeah, right. They usually when they print something later, like,
Yeah, oops, we forgot about this other thing that's now severely broken.
yeah. All right, and then our Dark Elder player in chat has also said he thinks that Succubi, Dark Technomancers, the Hellion Strat, and Courts might all need something done via an FAQ. And other things might need costs, but that's probably more of a wait and see. How do you feel about that?
Sorry, I missed that one.
So it's so chat's saying they think Succubi, Dark Technomancers, and the Hellion Strat and Courts need to get fixed by FAQs, and everything else we could see kind of let the dust settle from that and see if more points changes need to come into if it's still way too strong.
Controversial opinion. I don't think the Hellion Strat needs to be changed. I agree on the other ones, and I think it's a given, though. They're going to tell us the jet bikes are supposed to be 20 points.
Yeah, in fact, I believe the jet bikes are 20 points in other languages of the codex. I think it's just the English version.
How do you mess that up?
I don't know. GW, how? Actually, you know what? I think it's because the English version gets printed first, so they probably printed it and they're like, "Oops, that's wrong," and then fixed it for the other ones.
And even then, though, I know the bikes are going to be 20 points, but personally, I feel like they should be like 17.
Yeah, there's certainly worse than other things in the book right now. We'll see where they land afterward.
Yeah, we got enough buffs in this book, though, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, it's I know that feeling. All right, I think that is everything we have to say about these lists so far.
Yep. So, Brady, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your input. We'll have you back soon. But
No problem. It was fun.
yeah, thank you everybody very much for tuning in and listening. I know I didn't speak too much during this episode, but I mean, I know when to sit back and just let people who know better speak. So, yeah. So, Benjamin, thank you for being a co-contributor. Brady, thank you for being an honored guest. This has been episode 40. All roads lead to Commorragh. How do you? I don't actually know. Commorragh. Okay. All roads lead to Commorragh. What am I saying here? We're streaming live every Wednesday night. Twitch TV/36 charge, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Chat saying Sodom and Commorragh. Thanks. All right, and with that, I'm just gonna end the episode. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Bye. Don't roll any ones.
Don't roll
Have a good one.